took me in, and there was a holding cell there, and they held me there. And I sat there for a few hours. There was a bunch of other people inside there. And I sat there for hours and hours, and finally there was a gentleman that came and, introduced himself. Again, I won't say names of people right now. I have the paperwork, says the name. Super nice guy, came down, introduced himself. He goes, I want to interview you and everything like that. Came out, took my fingerprints and everything, ran my background and everything. Then I was in a holding cell again and everything. Then a lady came later on. She asked me to write down my story. And I basically sat down and I wrote my story out to her, who I was, why I came, stuff like this. While I was in the cell, I saw an attorney walking around who was basically a pro bono attorney. And I asked her if I can talk to her. I think about 2-3 hours later, she talked to me. And when I told her in 15 minutes what my story was, her answer was very straightforward. You're not a refugee. You're going to get deported. There was a lot of discouragement when I talked to
when you told your story to her, did she believe you?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure. But you know what? Honestly, I don't think she cared. She was doing her job.
Right.
You know.
You don't qualify without.
You don't qualify because I'm coming in through U.S. Right? I'm not coming in through my original country of either India or Kurdistan or Pakistan or whatever, the background my family comes in from. I'm coming in from the United States, so I'm not really a refugee. But anyway, I spent the whole day from 8 in the morning till about 4 o'clock, went through an interview process, went through fingerprint process, got lunch. They were actually super nice. They actually came and asked us what we wanted from Subway.
Wow.
And it surprised me that in a jail, because I've spent time in jail in U.S., so we'll go back to visit that story about
That's an interesting
the U.S.
chapter.
time and everything. Short summary, I spent 155 days in prison, a lot of time in solitude fighting a case, which again we'll come back and revisit. And it was a bologna bread and everything, but just somebody coming to you and asking you, hey, do you have any dietary restrictions?
Wow.
Do you have any religious restrictions?
Human rights issues, it sounds like.
That was not something that I experienced in the U.S.
No.
And I've experienced the other side of the law twice. I don't remember that. But anyway, Subway was ordered. We had lunch and everything. I wrote my whole story. When I was done writing my whole story, the lady looked at my story and she's like, I'm sorry, how old are you? And I told her my age. I was 40 years old. And she said to me, she goes, what you're writing on a piece of paper is nearly impossible. You're telling me you've been an investment banker. You worked for Stratton Oakmont, which the movie Wolf of Wall Street is based out of. You worked for a company that was part of the Big Short. You were there when 9/11 happened. You did all this stuff and you're 40. I don't believe your story. But I just want to let you know you have the right to change the story now because I'm going to run a background check. If anything comes back,
you're going back.
You're done. And she asked me very roughly, do you want to change the story? And I said, no. And she asked me again, she goes, are you sure? And I said, I called her by her first name and I said, I'll leave her name out, and I said, blank, and I said, I say, with all due respect, you're younger than me. This is my life, and I'm not about to lie, starting a brand new life in Canada. So if you don't believe my story, if it doesn't check out, I'm going. She goes, do you have a passport? And I said, no. She goes, can you get your passport? I said, sure, I can call my common law partner at that time, and I can have it FedExed over, because I didn't come here with a passport. She goes, do that, please. Gave me a phone call. I called my first love at that time, and I said, I need you to FedEx me the passport that's sitting in the safe, and sure enough, she got right on it. I've been blessed with amazing women in my life. Even to this day, I have amazing women in my life.
We'll come back and talk about your loves.
Absolutely. And that night, I basically got shackled again and everything like that, and I was transported back to the same prison in Burnet. I went there and spent the night, except when I went into prison at that time, I had a cellmate from Egypt. And his story was that he actually came to Canada, overstayed his visa. They arrested him, They deported him. Then he came back illegally again. Then they deported him again. Then he came back about 4 or 5 times. So he told me an amazing story about how he came. He had a white girlfriend and this and this. We got to talking. And at that time I was just like, you know what? I'm here in a prison cell with this guy. Last night I spent alone. Let me chat with him. I chatted with him. He actually shared a lot of stuff with me. And then after the entire night, he actually told me, he's like, I've never told anybody this.
Wow.
And after about 7 or 8 hours, like around 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, he said to me, he's like, what's your story? So in 5 minutes, I told him my story, and his first sentence was, you'll be fine tomorrow. You're not a criminal like me. I've been deported 6 times. It's your first time in Canada? I'm like, yeah. Yes, I've been deported 6 times. Chances are they're going to deport me again. They will release. I think 3 or 4 o'clock I went to sleep. In the morning, the same guys actually came, the Fijian guy, and who I've run into multiple times outside 300 Georgia, because when I go there to the library with the little one, I see him and I go say hello to him, and he's like, he's still surprised to this day what I've accomplished, because he's still stuck in that security job. And I've had chat with him, and actually, without disclosing his name, he's actually my client who actually comes to me for coaching. And I'm telling him how to change his credit and finances. So the guy that was my arresting officer,
wow,
immigration, Fijian guy, won't say the name, he's actually my client right now.
And then the next day, she came to you after checking your story.
She came back to me and she's like, everything checked out. How? And I said, I just kept going. And she goes, we're waiting for the FedEx to come in. As soon as your passport comes in, your IDs come in, I'm gonna release you, so just sit tight. I ran your background, there's nothing criminal on you. As much as I did not believe you, for which she apologized to me, she goes, I don't believe you. I am surprised that everything checked out. So anyway, I'm gonna release you today. And I sat there in the prison till about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 2 or 3 o'clock she came to me and she's like, you're free to go. And
so
I said,
what did they? How did they prepare you to go out into the streets of your new country?
July. The month was July, summer. She came to me and she's like, you're gonna basically go outside. I'm gonna check in. So she gave me a bunch of paperwork which contained my refugee document, my possession document of everything they'd taken from me. She was like, I'm not gonna give you any IDs back because your driving license, your credit cards, everything is from US. We have to keep that. We're gonna give you copies of everything, which I have copies of everything. And she said, we're gonna release you. You're gonna get a list of places that you can go stay for the night. Shelters. So there's gonna be a list. So, you're a resourceful guy. You have a phone, you have a laptop, you'll figure it out. And they released me. And I walked outside 300 West Georgia Street from the main station, from the main entrance. And I came downstairs and I looked to the left and I saw Georgia Street and I saw a bunch of drunk people hanging outside Library Square Bar. And I looked over to the right and I saw the stadium. And then I looked over to the left and I couldn't really make sense of it. So I came out from Georgia Street and I took a right. So imagine the stadium's here, Georgia's here, going towards Stanley Park. I took a right and I just kept walking.
The woman that released you and said you're free to go, we're going to hold your documents, here's a copy of them. Did they give you, I know they gave you a list of shelters, but did they give you any idea of what you should do next?
No.
What the opportunity was? Nothing. Or what was going to, this was going to be up to you.
There was a list of shelters, which I have, which I can show to you. There was a number for ISS of BC. There was a couple resourceful centers. Like I said, over $1,000 in my pocket. I went down. The first thing I did is grab a cup of coffee. Which later this is where this life gets interesting, which I did not realize till later on, till somebody came into my life. Actually, my first cup of coffee was from Kafka's Coffee. He said, call these shelters, you can stay there for the night. Walked out, made a right, went up. Apparently, I told you, first I wanted to get a pack of cigarettes. So I bought a pack of cigarettes, and it was $15, which was interesting.
For a pack of cigarettes.
For a pack of cigarettes.
Welcome to Canada.
Welcome to Canada. So I was like, okay. Then I wanted coffee.